Poke the Bear is brought to you by PrizePicks.
And welcome into Poke the Bear episode 363 presented by PrizePicks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And we're presented by CLNS Media. Make sure to go subscribe to us, Bruins Rinkside on YouTube. If you're not already, free, turn on notifications, podcasts all week, analysis, live streams, interviews, scrums, all that great stuff over there. And then if you don't like looking at us, you just want to listen, that's okay. Mainly if you're driving. But even if you just, maybe you're running, can't run and watch. I mean, you could run and watch us maybe. You could do both. But at any rate, wherever you get your podcasts, we are Bruins Beat, Poke the Bear, Pucks with Haggs. Subscribe, Apple, Spotify, wherever. And there's lots of other great CLNS stuff too. Patriots Press Pass, Celtics All Access, all that great stuff over on YouTube. I'm Evan Marinofski. That is Conor Ryan. Conor, what's up?
Evan, doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. I know you were at camp today. I was not. Interesting day.
Yeah, roster cuts are not official, Evan, but it sure feels like the Bruins are getting a lot closer to it. You look at, obviously, there's still a Group A, Group B, but they've switched things around a little bit. A lot of Group A were the guys that I think you're going to see on October 8th, right? All the roster locks, obviously, all skated there, but even like the guys that are on the roster bubble, but are going to be in that mix, right? Whether it's a Fraser Minton, Matt Poitras was on the third line on the wing with Casey Middlestad and Tanner Jeannot. You had Matej Blumel was in a top 6 spot. So, you know, it still remains to be seen. And it's not to say that anyone in Group B, which had a lot of Providence guys, but also some guys that, you know, were also on that roster bubble, right? You look at Johnny Beecher, Fabian Lysell, some of these players, they were in that Group B. So I don't think it's like set in stone, like these guys are going to get sent down to Providence, but I think it's pretty clear through 2 preseason games and 5 total practices that I think Marco Sturm and the team are at least trying to start identifying where they want to focus in on some of their players, right? And even like Marco Sturm after practice on Thursday mentioned, you know, specifically a guy like Matej Blumel and even a guy like Marat Hustendinov, like they like what they've seen so far. Hasn't been perfect, but they want to see more of them. I almost feel like where you have these guys like the Blumels and the Mintons and the Poitras that have that upside, but still maybe haven't officially locked themselves into an opening night spot. I think you're going to see them focus maybe more on those guys as opposed to maybe the guys that are further out on the roster bubble that, you know, seem like they're probably headed for Providence the next couple of days.
Yeah, and I want to get into the lineup, but what helped kind of inform this lineup and where we think it's going to head was Tuesday's game against the Rangers. Bruins enter the third, down 4-1, come back, tie at 4-4, win at no T. Nikita Zadorov with
the Irish goodbye.
Cold Selly. Yes, an Irish goodbye is the way to put it. That was as I just like, I'm done with this. Take me home. I don't want anything more. No more preseason hockey for me.
That's when your buddy starts bringing out the shots at like 1:45 a.m. You make that executive decision. Someone starts playing like What's Going On by Four Non Blondes on the touch tunes. You see your buddy at the bar like doing like 5 shots, and then that's when you do like Zadorov, you just dip, you leave.
It's like after your wedding, we were at the bar next door, and it was getting late. We're like, all right, this is just never going to end, is it? This is just going to continue forever.
Absolutely.
And it should still be continuing, but unfortunately, we have lives and work and all that crappy stuff.
Unfortunately, yes.
But biggest takeaway for me was Mikey Eyssimont. It was like an Eyssimont takeover in that third period. He factored into all 3 goals. He was fantastic. Takes the puck from Fox, scores a beautiful goal. I had someone say to me, like, I don't think people realize how good even like 4th liners are in the NHL. And I was like, yeah, I mean, is that like, do people not realize how good bottom 6 guys are in the grand scheme of things? Eyssimont to me is a pain in the ass. I know that there are some who are like, you know, could he be a 3rd liner? I think at 29 years old, we have a pretty good idea of what he is. Antagonizing force on that 4th line. Seems like he's going to play alongside Corrali and Kastelik, at least to start. I think that's the perfect spot for him. But knowing there's that offensive upside, knowing that he has those penalty killing abilities, I think is a very good trait to have for that 4th line. And I think he's a guy that I think could become a pretty big fan favorite here.
Yeah, I think you even look at that fourth line. There's a lot to like about what that grouping can do night in and night out, in terms of, generating energy, being tough to play against. I think playing the way that Marco Sturm wants this group to be, which is pretty straight line, physical, hounding pucks. And I think there is some like scoring upside there. I'm not saying that Shankara's got a 30-point season incoming and AC Milan's got 15 goals and all that kind of stuff. But I think you can see it. I don't think it's going to be a black hole offensively for that group, especially if they're playing the way Stern wants them to play, of just like winning pucks. AC Milan, I don't think you're expecting them to have 3-point periods, right? Like you saw in that game. But I think even just look at that, that shorthanded goal, like completely outplays Adam Fox, who, yikes, that sequence was awful. If like that was Charlie McAvoy and someone like a fourth liner pickpocketed him like that, like people would be freaking the hell out off of like. And again,
yes.
It's preseason game. Like I'm not the biggest Adam Fox fan, but he's still a very good player. So not saying that like he's a bum or anything like that, but I think you look at what AC Mont did there, of like the hustle, the energy, and also like the finish too, of like being up, having the ability to capitalize on those situations. And I agree, like I feel like he's probably better as a fourth line player on this team. But I think if that's like your contingency plan, like break glass in case of emergency, and a lot of these other guys don't do well, and he is your third line wing, it's not great, Evan. But I think like you could put him there if need be. So I do think he's a player that if he's on that fourth line, doling out a lot of hits, finishing plays, I think he's going to be a pretty popular player in Boston this year.
Yeah, 100%. And then I think my other big takeaway from the game against the Rangers on Tuesday, I don't think the young players have not done enough to separate themselves. Blumel had that goal, which was nice. Outside of that, there hasn't been much. And I wasn't at camp on Thursday. There was no camp on Wednesday, so I can't speak to how they did in camp on Thursday. But just in the two games and kind of prior to that, they haven't separated themselves. In that core of young guys, Patra, Mitten, Lysell, Steves, Blumel even. I'd put Blumel at the top of that list, and certainly they put him up at the top too. The young guys have not done enough to, and again, we're halfway through camp, so like there's still time. But I haven't seen enough, and I didn't see enough certainly in the first two preseason games.
Yeah, again, like I think the Bruins want these younger players to take a step forward and take a spot, but also it can't be a situation where the Bruins are opening camp where they're like, well, guys, rest assured, we're going to suck this year, so just show up and we'll give you a spot. Like, you can't be that, right? And so it has to be kind of like what Patra was 2 years ago, where you go with pretty low expectations. All right, let's see what you got. And then you continue to put forward the effort and the production that makes it impossible for the team to leave you out of the lineup. Like, I think like when we've talked about like, the last couple of weeks of the runway these younger players are going to be handed this year, and I think the Bruins have to go through the growing pains and sticking with some guys, you still need to put your best foot forward in the preseason to warrant a spot too. I think that's the most important thing. And so I look at like Blumel, right? Like at least he's scored. He's been noticeable out there on the offensive side of things. Had a really bad turnover leading to that Gavrikov shorthanded goal, but at least I think, and it's kind of like to what Marco Sturm mentioned, like they see the tools, they see the skill set, they see that he wants to keep on working at it. All right, we're going to keep on giving you opportunities and see if we can really get something out of you. It's tougher to do that when it's maybe a guy like Fabian Lysell, who, I think at the start of that game on Sunday against the Capitals was moving his feet, was closing in on pucks, was doing the things that, he's not dangling and scoring a goal, but doing the things that he has to do to stick in the NHL. And then he kind of just fades in and out. I think the same thing even with like Matt Patra, who you see the poise, you see the talent, you need to see a little bit of production there. And I think more importantly for Matt Patra, he needs to stop getting lit up every single time he's out on the ice. Like, even if he was, through 2 preseason games, had 4 assists, and you're like, this guy's great. It's not going to matter in the NHL if he's got 8 points in the first 10 games, then he gets clotheslined because he doesn't have his head up, right? Like, you got to work on that as well. So, Minton's been, I've been at least encouraged by Minton, where I think he's been as advertised as far as the details have been good, right? Like, he's won, I think, over 53% of his faceoffs, had 3 blocks in the last game. Like, he's doing the little things, and I think that's why he's still in the mix and why I think he's still a really intriguing player for this group. But some of the other guys, especially the guys that I think have maybe that higher offensive upside, that, believe me, the Bruins want these guys to do well because they need to find that secondary scoring. You need to see a little bit more from that group, I think, going into the next preseason game.
Yeah, Mitten's an interesting one because it's like, you don't expect the production. You expect sort of good on draws, reliable, good in his own zone, 200-foot player. And he's been that. But it's that offensive upside. And I don't count the Prospects Challenge. He was the most experienced player there. That's different. Yeah. But you want to see some of that production come through. And a goal or an assist here or there would help his case quite a bit. Because, again, like, you got a lot down the middle. And at least going off of the lines on Thursday, again, Geeky, Lindholm, Pasternak, line 1. Blumel, Zacha, Arvidsson, line 2. Jeannot, Middlestat, Patra, line 3. Acimont, Corrali, Kastelik, line 4. And then sort of that fifth line, the guys right outside of it, Hustendinov, Mitten, and Steves. Can Mitten supplant a Middlestat and move him to the wing? Because I don't like Mitten on the wing. I like Mitten down the middle. I think he is a centerman. I think the way his game translates, I like him down the middle a lot more. So, like, can he get in there? Can he find a spot? Like, he's not a fourth line center right now, the way they're constructing that fourth line. Injuries are obviously going to happen, and it wouldn't shock me if a Corrali went down or a Kastelik, that Mitten's on that fourth line. But I would love to see him be maybe a little bit more noticeable to get in the lineup because I like what he brings and I want to see him in the lineup. I think there's a lot of potential there. And in terms of what his role is going to be, I'm not saying like 60 points or anything like that. God, no. But just for what he's going to be and what he can be and reliability and all those things, I do want to see him in the lineup.
Yeah. And I think it kind of goes back to what I said about like the younger players having to take the decision almost out of the Bruins' hands, right? Where I think the Bruins and Marco Sturm, like what Fraser mentioned, already showcased. They like his upside. They like his floor. Like this year, if he was open the season on the NHL roster, you like what I think he could do in terms of developing over the span of an 82-game season. That being said, like also the Bruins do have like not a solid group, but like they have options down the middle between Zacha and Middlestat. Like that's not Marco Sturm going against the grain or doing something wild in terms of like Pavel Zacha, who's averaged 54 points his 3 seasons with Boston, and Casey Middlestat, who has shown that he can be a productive playmaker in a middle 6 spot. Like it's not like he's like going against the grain and putting, Sean Corrali and Mikey Acimont on the third line. And all right, Fraser, like, sorry, buddy, you're not beating out these guys. But I think for the Bruins, it's like, you're probably going to look at a guy like Middlestat and Zacha first, unless like Minten really kind of changes that. If Minten all of a sudden goes into this next preseason game on Saturday against Philly, gets a goal and an assist and keeps on winning faceoffs, maybe that changes the Bruins approach there of maybe it is like, hey, maybe we do have Zacha, Middlestat, and Arvidsson, right? And then we make that third line a little bit different and it's Minten with Jeannot and Blumel, right? Like, I feel like there's as much as we see, and we'll talk a little bit more about the groups getting split up on Thursday. I still feel like there's not a lot still set in stone beyond, I would say, the top line and Jeremy Swayman being the number 1 guy in net. The rest of it does seem like, all right, they're kind of whittling the group down, but where guys fit in and where the puzzle pieces kind of go, I don't think that's determined. So I think a lot of it still is going to rest on what, especially these younger guys, these guys on the roster bubble, do in the next week or so.
Oh, 100%. There's not a lot. This could change. Because I want to dive into these lines and what we think. First and fourth, I'm not as interested in. I think that was kind of obvious. Yeah. It's the second and third. And even the deep pairings that I think provide the most intrigue. But first, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Now, this Sunday, you can take Jalen Hurts, 99% discount, more than 0.5 passing yards, which I can confidently say probably going to happen. I like that. I like Drake May against the Panthers. Drake May has been working for me, and I like him more passing yards. And flex plays have been awesome because you don't have to be 100% right. You can get most of it right and still rack in some winnings. PrizePicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you get your picks right, you could cash in. And PrizePicks, they put their users first. So all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. PrizePicks offers Apple, Venmo, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Good to be right. Good to be right. Okay, middle 6 lines. Blumel, Zaka, Arvidsson, Jano, Middlestat, Patra. So the big things there, Zaka's off the wing. He's down the middle. Middlestat's on the third line. Patra's on the wing. And Blumel gets a spot on that second line. What do you make of that?
Very interesting. I would say that, especially if you're the Bruins and you're trying to get, I think, the most pressing need with all this, middle 6 group and where the guys best fit, I think the main priority has to be finding what groups, what pairs, all that kind of stuff are going to generate offense for you. So I think if you're the Bruins, and especially where I think Casey Middlestat's such a, I think kind of an X factor on this team, right? Where you see like what the skill set is, you see what he can do with the puck on his stick. Where are you generating the offense with him? Where are your like shot first guys that he's going to be with? I'm curious to see like how Matt Patra fits on the wing in that kind of spot, especially, right? Whereas almost like if it's him with Zaka, and they're trying to get like Zaka to be more of a shot first guy, I could see like having like a playmaker on the wing like Patra. Maybe that makes a little bit more sense. Whereas if I'm the Bruins and I'm trying to get anything out of like Middlestat and trying to make that, I don't know, what do you want to call it, that de facto second line, elevating the 5-on-5 scoring touch there, I'd rather go with, Arvidsson and Blumel, or even like Jano with a shot first guy. Like, I don't think Tanner Jano is scoring 20 goals on this team, but like I could see, all right, big body, power forward, hanging down in grade A ice. Maybe Middlesex can set him up, or it adds like a good element to that group. But I think that other wing has to be a fast skater with a shot first mindset. And I don't know if like Patra fits that bill over an Arvidsson or Blumel, someone like that. So again, I don't think this is set in stone. Even Marco Stern mentioned they want to see what Patra can do on the wing. I'm sure he's probably going to draw into the lineup either Saturday or Monday on the wing, see what he can do there. And that maybe, again, changes the team's outlook. But for right now, I'd rather, if you're trying to really get a lot out of Middlestat, whether him being productive this year helps you exceed expectations and you also have a functioning second or third line, it also bumps up his value if this team isn't all that and you have to move him at the deadline. I'd rather you put him with more shot-ready, offensive-minded guys because I just don't know what to expect from Patra in that spot on the wing.
Yeah, my issue is Middlestat. I thought Middlestat played well against the Rangers on Tuesday. I know it's one preseason game, but the way he played, the way he set guys up, the way he cycled in the offensive zone, that's what you want out of him. You want him being a playmaker. That's kind of something they don't have much of. Someone like him who has his mobility, who has his vision. I don't know if Patra's the guy. Now, I don't mind Jano on one side and Patra on the other. I think, if you subscribe to the theory of, Jano being out there kind of takes a little bit of the attention off of Patra or sort of makes guys afraid to mess with Matt Patra, then I'll give you that. Like, I think that's a smart thing. But I don't know. I think Middlestat makes more sense with Arvidsson because Arvidsson plays that. He's a shot first guy. He's got speed. Even Blumel. You saw a little bit of the Blumel Middlestat connection the other night. And you could even make a case for Zaka. He's an established NHL top 6 winger in this league, as well as top 6 center, but a top 6 winger as well. So, like, that's my thing. Now, again, like, I wonder if internally they think, hey, we think we can make Tanner Jano the guy he was in 21-22, putting him with Middlestat.
I'm sure they'd love that.
Tall ask. That's a tall ask. And that's where, like, you could there's two sides, right? There's one side that's like, no way that's happening. And there's the other side that's like, well, maybe this is the roster to try it with. This is the lineup to try it with. This is not a playoff team. What the hell? Why not? You signed him to a long-term deal. So, not saying that's going to work. I'm just saying that that's a potential option there, which I think it's highly unlikely. But that's my thing. The other thing is Patra's, I guess, got to be somewhere in the lineup. Same with like him, or one of him or Minton has to be somewhere. And they're clearly going for more experience down the middle, which does push Minton away. And Patra on the wing. And, would Patra make more sense up with Zaka and Blue Mel? I don't know, like
it's
he's
kind
got
of
to play himself into that, and he hasn't done that yet.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of, that's why we even, I think, mentioned weeks ago, right? Like Patra, you like the upside, you like the potential there. It's just where does he best fit? Because it's just, if you want to put him on the wing, and like what Marco Sturm mentioned on Thursday of like what he wants as a line mate for Middlestad, he's like, we need speed. He's like, we need speed. We need a guy that's going to generate offense and get shots on net, because he was pretty much like, we've seen Middlestad, the production hasn't always been there, but like if he has a puck on his stick and you're moving with speed, he's going to find you. Like they think that he could be like a 50-point guy just off of his playmaking ability. And so like Patra, I think, skates pretty well, but is he a shot first type of player? Like as soon as he mentioned speed, shot first, I'm like, all right, so Arvidsson and Blumel are like automatically, I think, the first guys up there, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's all just kind of, I think right now, trial and error. And again, I feel like a broken record. It just shows you how much is still up in the air with this team. But maybe all of a sudden you put those guys together, Middlestad and Patra's got 2 goals and is flying all over the ice in a preseason game. Maybe they think they got something there. If he can't make an impact, if he's if he's getting lit up when he's out on the ice and he's not maybe as involved in the game where he's not playing down the middle, maybe they realize that they shouldn't put him on wing, and maybe that changes the mindset as well. But it just shows you, I think they still are really evaluating a lot of options. Also, it kind of shows looking for like speed and a shot first approach. Fabian Lysell not being in that mix when he probably fits more as to what that profile would be. Also a little bit ominous in terms of, I think, what his outlook is going into another week of training camp and another week of preseason games.
It's telling. I want to just remind everyone, make sure to go subscribe to Bruins Rinkside on YouTube. We got stuff coming all the time. Podcasts, analysis, live streams, interviews, all that great stuff. Turn on notifications. We're going to have so much content, as we always do. And then if you don't like watching us and you just like listening, make sure to go subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from, Apple, Spotify, Podbean, wherever it is. And then if you're, if you like other stuff too, Celtics, Patriots, lots of great stuff from CLNS, Celtics, All Access, Patriots, Press Pass. Almost got those mixed up. So make sure to go subscribe over there. They are humming with stuff. The Lysell thing is very interesting because you're right. He would fit that bill more than a Matt Patra would. A couple things there. I mean, Patra has more NHL experience. That's one. Patra's more reliable, I think, than Lysell. Plays probably more their style than Lysell does. Lysell does have that skill, though, where it's like, oh, that is missing in that lineup. I think it just comes down to something, and it's a theme we talked about all summer. It's a theme that we've talked about through camp so far. Doesn't feel like it's the place for Lysell. This does not feel like the place anymore. And he feels like someone that needs a fresh start, needs a new place. Again, could he, go nuts over the next week and a half and he's in the lineup? Maybe. But everything we've seen so far, he just can't get out of that like bubble group. And he can't separate himself from that, whether that's on the coaches, whether that's on him. It's just the way it is. And to me, as of now, it feels like he's sort of someone that's in need of a fresh start.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like it's working right now. And again, like it's unfortunate because you do notice the potential and the skill set, right? When he's moving with the puck on his stick, he can make a lot happen. And I think you even saw that at the end of this year. It's just consistently maintaining that and, making sure that doesn't slip, night in and night out, I think is the biggest issue with him. And again, like it's been a frustrating like development curve for him in terms of like, not getting opportunities at previous times. Some of that maybe falls on the Bruins. Also some of it falls on him, right? Of, getting that opportunity this past year in the NHL and then going down to Providence and not making much of an impact instead of like building off of it, which then maybe changes the Bruins. Like, again, I feel like we talked about this years now, right? As far as what's been going on. And maybe it is like a fresh start is the best for all groups involved, but we'll see on Saturday, right? Like, I don't know if they're going to announce roster cuts before then. I know Providence's camp starts on Monday, I believe. So maybe like this Saturday game is they give it one last go for these guys that are really on the bubble, right? The guys that are maybe in Group B, like a Lysell, Johnny Beecher, who had a really tough game on Tuesday against New York. Maybe this is your last opportunity. And again, as I've said multiple times on this podcast already, maybe the approach and the mindset changes if he goes out there and lights it up, as you said. But it's going to come down to the player at this point. I think, not that everyone's kind of set in their ways, but I think everyone knows right now, like, where they stand or like what needs to be done. And I think now it's all about what someone like Lysell can do to maybe change that with a performance out there on the ice. And just, you're waiting for him to break through. You hope he does well, right? You're hoping he gets an opportunity. It just feels like, as you said, he's kind of just in that gray area, that stuck in neutral almost, right? And just has not worked out so far. And I think it's frustrating for, I think, everyone involved.
Beecher's another one. I don't see where he fits in this lineup.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. Left wing is full. Center is full. I'm not putting him on his offside on the right. Like, I haven't seen enough. There were so many games last season where I didn't notice him. I didn't realize he was even playing. And I think that, I don't want to say that ship has sailed, but I don't see a spot for him in this lineup. I just don't. I mean, you have Hustendinov, who has more than earned a right to have a shot at this team more than he has. You've got a lot of guys that could play down the middle. I mean, you have your centers, you have your 5 that were in Group A today. You also have, Patra on the wing as well. So, like,
even like look at Riley Duran and these guys who I don't think can crack the team, but like again, Marco Sturm mentioned on Sunday that the best line they had was Patrick Brown, Jeffrey Viel, and Riley Duran. And it's not to say that I think those guys are breaking the NHL roster on October 8th, but like if you're Beecher and you already have so many guys that are already pretty much locked in, right? You've got Kastelik, you've got Asimont, you've got Corrali, you've got guys that have a different skill set, but also some upside in Hustendinov. You got younger guys in Minton, and then you got guys also down in Providence with you who've done better this preseason, or maybe a safer option like a Patrick Brown or even a Duran. The numbers game is not looking very good. And again, that would change if he had a better game on Tuesday, but like you can't, if you're not able to score at the rate that, Bruins fans were expecting, which again, you can't go 0 goals in 60 plus games. If you're not bringing that, you have to be great in your own end. And, pretty much skates into Gavrikov, gives the puck up, and Gabe Perreault scores a few seconds later. It's just, when the numbers are what they are, and the rosters as packed at the bottom of the depth chart as it is, you can't have games like that.
No, you can't. You absolutely can't. I have a thought on the D pairings before we get to Chara. Lindholm Peeke. You know what I like about that pairing? You know what I like?
What's that?
So that's a top 4 role. That's a top 4 role for Andrew Peeke. You're playing with Hampus Lindholm, who should be a guy who can elevate Andrew Peeke, who should be good, who should be a good, steady, solid, reliable D partner. Is there a chance that Peeke plays pretty well throughout this year? They don't re-sign him, and come the deadline, there are a bunch of teams saying, we need a top 4 right shot defenseman. Let's go get Andrew Peeke. And suddenly you've got a team saying, here's a first, or here's a top prospect, or here's 2 grade A- prospects for Andrew Peeke. I don't think that's far-fetched.
I think there's multiple guys on this team that if this team really does struggle and it's looking like another lost season and they want to move guys at the deadline, take your pick, right? They could easily restock their depth, their prospect pipeline even more if it's, as you said, a guy like Peeke, a guy like Arvidsson if he plays well, Middlestat if they put him in a spot where he's productive, maybe he's a guy you move on from. Pavel Zacha, I think, and I like Pavel Zacha, and I think his contract's great, and he does a lot to help your team. And I think both for right now and in the next couple of years, I think that you can see the value of just having a guy that can do a little bit of everything in your middle 6 can really pay dividends. But he's also a guy that I think a lot of teams would love to add to their team before a playoff push as well. So, again, we'll see how it plays out this season. But if the Bruins really are struggling and it's looking like a lost season and they want to, maybe they're hovering just short of the playoff picture and they're looking at more of that, pick number 12 to number 14, and they want to go into that top 10 and you want to get another first and 2 seconds along the way, there's a lot of guys on this group that you could move on from if the Bruins do decide to take that path as this year plays out.
Agreed. Completely agree. But the deadline stuff that we'll get into later. We'll do bold predictions at some point before the season starts, and I know that we'll dive into that. Bruins had some news on Thursday afternoon. Bruins named Zdeno Chara hockey operations advisor and mentor. In his new role, Chara will work closely with both players and staff to advise the organization in key areas. His primary responsibilities will include building relationships and strengthening communication between players and coaches, attending practices and home games, and providing off-ice development support to defensemen. He will also serve as a resource for the team's development staff and make periodic visits to connect with prospects at the AHL level. To me, this is essentially just finalizing him being around the team a lot. Like, I think, I'm assuming he was doing a lot of this already. That's just an assumption. I'm fine with this. I think a lot of people are going to read into this and say, is he gearing up for something bigger? Maybe. Like, you're an advisor in hockey operations. Like, one would think that, you're gunning for an opening if one pops up, be it general manager, team president, something in scouting. Like, I could see it. We've talked about this. Like, I could totally see it.
Yeah. And again, I think it's just having him in the building and being part of the operation. However it is, right, I think is a positive for the Bruins as far as just what he can provide to this team, whether it is like the leadership, whether it's helping, guys like Charlie McAvoy and David Pastrnak, like kind of grow as leaders, whether it's helping younger players and kind of, just being, I think that presence of that resource, I think can go a long way. I'm not saying that Chara being aboard and checking in on guys means this team is going to do a 180 from last year, right? But I think it's just a positive that he's in the building. And, I think a lot of times you have like former players that jump back into some sort of roles. And I think it makes sense that people can be skeptical of like, they just, what is this job? It's like, isn't like David Ortiz technically have like a job with the Red Sox? Like, I don't think he's going to Worcester, right, to like help out with stuff. And like, listen, David Ortiz can do whatever the hell he wants. Like, again, a lot of those gigs can be either like ceremonial or it's kind of like, we're just happy to have you back on board, man. We love you. If anyone has met Zdeno Chara, that guy, I don't think half-asses anything. The guy was like, I'm going to decide to pick up distance running. And now he's like, I think he's swimming to New Zealand next week. He's going to
do the whole world.
Right from the harbor, yeah. If he wanted to like become an astronaut, all of a sudden he'd be like orbiting Neptune in a year. Like that's kind of just what Zdeno Chara, like why he is what he is. So I don't imagine this is going to be just like a hobby for him. He's going to check in every once in a while. He's going to Trader Joe's and then like going to stop by Warrior afterwards and say hi to guys or anything like that. He's dedicated to anything he does. And so I think just having him as a resource and whatever that may be can only help the team. And to your point, not saying this means he's going to be a GM or president a year or two, but I think having him in the building, growing that role, I don't imagine he's going to be a guy that's just going to be chill with being an advisor. Like, I think it's just good to have him involved in the operations as this team tries to regain kind of what they were back when he first started here. It's not done overnight, but I think just having that voice as part of the equation can only help this team moving forward.
He's going to want to work his way up. That's what I think.
He's going to take over this podcast.
That's right. He's going to say, I want that podcast. Give me that. And he can take it. He can have it. So Zdeno Chara wants this. It's like that SpongeBob meme where it's
no, we can't. No, this is our podcast, Evan. No, wait a second.
Well, I'm just saying it's that SpongeBob meme where it's like when my opponent is Zdeno Chara in like getting anything contest or whatnot, and it's like, oh man, like yeah, well, how am I going to battle Zdeno Chara? You're right. You know what, Connor? Though you're right. Like for a podcast like this, we can't give it up. Sorry,
put my foot down here.
Sorry, Zdeno. We'll kick your ass on this one, but you can kick our asses in pretty much anything else.
Yes.
Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, you can read my stuff over the Globe and Boston.com. I'll have you covered every step of the way this Bruins training camp going into the regular season. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever it's called, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofski. Poke the Bear listeners. Have a great rest of your week.